When I first got started with watercolor, one of the biggest misconceptions I had about it was that it was really unforgiving. But it's far more forgiving than you might think. For example, let's say you're painting something and whoops, you drop some color where you didn't want it to be. Working quickly while it's still wet, you can take a paper towel and just grab a section of this and press down and lift. Most of the time doing this is going to remove the majority of the paint from the drop, and you're not really going to be able to see it. But what if you don't work quickly enough and it's dried? In that case, we can fill our brush with some clean water, lightly scrub on it, not too much, and then again press, and we're going to be able to remove some of that color. If neither of those worked, as a final resort, you can actually use a magic eraser to erase it off of the paper. I would do this as your very last thing though, because magic erasers are abrasive, which damages the paper, and it's going to make it so that it's not going to act the same if you try to paint on top of an area that you've used an eraser. If none of the lifting methods worked for helping to obscure your mistake you made in watercolor, you can always scrap it, or sometimes you can add in additional layers to help draw attention away from the area that you don't like. If you want them to be distinct layers, you're going to want to make sure that they dry in between. If all else fails, you can use additional media on top of the watercolor to help you disguise any sort of mistakes that you don't like. Things like pen on top of dried watercolor work great, as well as gouache or acrylic. And with those few tricks, watercolor becomes a lot more forgiving and a little less scary.